Hi everyone, I'm Shaylin here with Reedsy. So today we're going to be talking about how to set writing goals and how to actually achieve them. It's the beginning of the new year, so a lot of us are setting our writing goals for the following year. And so today I wanted to run through a couple tips to set effective writing goals that will actually benefit your writing process, rather than just being something that you set at the beginning of the year and then completely forget about. It's very easy to get on board with the yearly goals hype around January. Everyone's setting goals, it seems like the time, but not everyone will actually benefit from a yearly goal system if they don't actually think this through. So let's talk about some things to actually make the most of your yearly goals and set goals that you can actually achieve. Tip number 1, only set goals that matter to you, aka don't set fluff goals. It can be really easy to, at the beginning of the year when you're setting your goals, set goals that matter to you and then start throwing in other stuff that you don't really care about just because you're wrapped up in this goal setting hype. It's like, oh, well, and I guess I'm gonna do this. Oh, and I'm also gonna do this. Stuff that you really don't care about and isn't important to you. When you're setting your yearly goals, set goals that genuinely matter to you, because I can tell you right now that if you don't actually care about it, you're not going to do it. And then at the end of the year, you're just going to feel like you failed because you didn't achieve these goals that you never really wanted to achieve in the first place. They weren't important to you. With each goal, ask yourself, does this really matter to me? Is this really what I want to accomplish this year? Is this what I want to be doing with my time? Or am I just kind of throwing it in here because I feel like I should be coming up with some yearly goals? Set goals that genuinely matter to you and that you have that actual internal motivation to pursue. Tip number 2, be realistic. It's really easy to be very ambitious at the start of the year, but one of the most important factors for success is actually being realistic with yourself. If you set your sights too high, you probably won't even try because you've set goals that are impossible to achieve. So be really realistic with yourself. I actually think it's better to set your sights low and set goals that you know you can meet rather than setting goals that are really ambitious. You may not even feel the motivation to try and reach those very ambitious goals because you don't think you can do it. Personally, I think the sweet spot for a yearly goal is the challenging end of realistic. It's within the realm of realistic, but it's still going to challenge you, so you still have that drive to really work hard to achieve it, and it'll feel like an accomplishment at the end of the year, but it's also something you know that you can do. Tip number 3. Set goals that are within your control. A really big trapping of yearly goals or goals in any way is setting goals that you actually can't control whether you achieve them or not. Things like, my goal is to get a literary agent. That sounds like a great goal. It may be something you want to achieve, but the thing is, that's kind of out of your control. There are too many factors outside your control. So instead, think about how you can turn that into a goal that you can achieve. For example, I want to get my book polished and ready to query, or I want to send 20 query letters. These are things that you can actually achieve. When submitting work, I like to set rejection goals rather than acceptance goals because you truly do not know when you're going to get a piece of work accepted or for publication. But you can control how many times you submit your work. So you can say, I would like to submit my work X amount of times. How many times within that will be an acceptance? Who knows? But you can't control that. But you can control how many times you click the submit button. Tip number 4, set goals you can maintain. Another common trapping of goal setting goes along with setting realistic goals, and it's setting goals that are realistic enough that you can maintain them at the beginning of the year, but then kind of fizzle out. For example, saying that you're gonna write 1,000 words a day. Maybe you can achieve this for the first month or the first month and a half. But can you do this for a year? A lot of the time we set goals that we can meet near the beginning of the year, but we can't maintain longer than that. This can also feel like an extra bit of a failure because when you're able to do something like write 1,000 words a day near the beginning of the year when the goal is fresh and you have a ton of energy and you haven't burned yourself out yet, it's like, oh, this is amazing. I'm gonna do this forever. And then when you stop, it's like, wait, but I used to be able to do this, so I should be able to do it now. You wanna be able to think long term rather than burning yourself out with a very ambitious schedule or very ambitious goal near the beginning of the year. Pace yourself so you don't get burned out. And think about how you can maintain good writing habits long term rather than creating this very unrealistic expectation of what your writing process will be that can't be sustained. Tip number 5, evaluate the previous year. When you're setting goals, it really helps to look at the previous year and what worked or did not work for you. Look at the goals you made, which ones did you achieve or not achieve, and most importantly, why did you meet or not meet those goals? What worked for you? What didn't work for you? What kind of scheduling worked for you? What didn't work for you? Really think about the previous year, how you wrote best, what impeded your writing, and use that to create even more effective goals this year. If you're setting daily, weekly, or monthly word count goals, use the previous year as your benchmark rather than just picking an arbitrary number that you're not sure if you can maintain. Ask yourself, how many words did I write last year? What was my, say monthly average? That can give you a good idea of how to set a daily or monthly word count goal based on what you wrote the previous year. The data from your previous year is really helpful in setting realistic goals. That'll also show you what is in that ideal realm of realistic but challenging. You know what you were able to write last year and what you were able to achieve. So maybe you want to say, that's my benchmark, I want to do a little bit better. Tip number 6, use smaller milestones or check-ins. Setting goals for the whole year can sometimes be so broad that we kind of just forget about them because we're not going to check in on these goals until 12 months later. So break up your goals into smaller chunks. You may have your yearly goals, but then think about maybe what you want to do each quarter or each season or each month, however best works for you. Set some check-in dates. Maybe you want to go through your calendar and every other month, just put a little check-in where it's going to remind you to look at your yearly goals and ask yourself, what have you done? How much progress have you made? And is this something that I still care about? Put some reminders in your calendar to check in on your yearly goals, see what your progress is, and maybe even evaluate or adjust course if need be. Tip number 7. Have plans, not just goals. Goals are great, but goals are also the end destination. It's not necessarily a plan for how you're going to get there. If your goal is, I'm going to get my book ready to query or ready to publish, that's great. How are you going to get there? What are the necessary steps that you need to take based on where your draft is now and based on where you need it to be? Break it up into smaller steps, think about a timeline, and actually create a plan for how you're going to achieve these goals. If you don't really think about the how and just about the what that you want to do, it's again more likely that you won't even bother trying because the goal feels impossible to achieve or you're just not sure how to get started. So when you're making your yearly goals, don't just think about what you want to achieve, but also break down how you're going to get there. And finally, tip number 8, be mindful of change. Sometimes the circumstances in our life change or the circumstances within our writing change. It is important to be able to go with the flow and be adaptable. I can tell you that many years I've gotten to the end of the year and I've gone to reflect back on my yearly goals and thought, okay, I didn't achieve all of these, but based on circumstances, I adapted and maybe I did something completely unexpected that I'm even more happy about. Maybe halfway through the year, you're going to get a great new idea. And maybe the best thing for you is to start writing it. And maybe you're going to get to the end of the year and you're like, okay, I didn't achieve all my yearly goals, but I actually did a bunch of work on this new idea that I never even thought would be something in my life. There are going to be changes of circumstance. You're going to get new ideas. You're going to have projects that you didn't think were working will start working. Projects you did think were working maybe will need to be put aside. Creativity and writing can be a bit unpredictable as much as we may at the start of the year want to predict exactly how our year is going to go. Be adaptable. If something isn't working, change it. If you feel really inspired, maybe you want to follow that. If circumstances change, maybe you need to either be gentler with yourself or you need to take an opportunity to go far beyond what you'd expected. Just as important as it is to be able to persevere and stick with your goals, it's also just as important to be able to kind of roll with the punches and adapt as necessary. A lot can happen in a year. We don't know what's going to happen in the year that we're planning for right now. And so if need be ready to adjust course. And that is totally okay. It's more important at the end of the year that you can go, I'm really happy with what I accomplished this year and what I did this year, than be able to say, I perfectly met the goals that I set for myself in January. Maybe perfectly sticking to your goals is what's going to make you happy in the end. But if it's not, then it's okay to adjust and change course. You're really just setting these goals for yourself. And so you're setting these goals based on what you think is best for yourself right now in January of 2023. Maybe in June of 2023, you'll realize that something else is best for you. And you need to adjust course, and that's totally okay. So I would love to hear what your goals are for 2023. What would you like to accomplish? I have a few. I have a book that I'm editing that I would like to get ready to go on submission, so I'd like all the editing to be done. I would like to finish the novel that I'm currently drafting, and I would like to write 3 short stories. Those are my goals, and I would love to hear what yours are. So thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new videos from us. We've got new writing, editing, and publishing tips every Tuesday and Friday. Until next time, bye.